Britain's media regulator, Ofcom, has launched an investigation into a BBC documentary titled Gaza, To Survive A Warzone, after it was found to have breached editorial guidelines on accuracy. The program featured 13-year-old Abdullah as its narrator, but it later emerged that he is the son of Ayman al-Yazuri, a former deputy minister of agriculture under Hamas. Following the revelation, the BBC removed the documentary from its streaming platform in February. The broadcaster's internal review, conducted by its Director of Editorial Complaints, concluded that while there was no evidence of bias or outside influence on the documentary, it did fail to meet accuracy standards. The BBC said the independent production company, Hoyo Films, which created the program, did not disclose the narrator's background. While the BBC said the company bore most of the responsibility, it noted there was no deliberate attempt to mislead. BBC Director General Tim Davie admitted the program had a significant failing related to accuracy. The situation has drawn political attention, with UK Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy questioning why no BBC staff had faced consequences. Meanwhile, the controversy has also sparked a wider debate on media bias. Over 500 media personalities, including Ken Loach, Mike Lee, and Riz Ahmed, signed a letter defending the documentary against what they described as a political campaign to silence Palestinian voices.
Absolutely. I think an organization like the BBC, which is very old and entrenched, definitely has checks and balances in place with respect to who their guests are. The background is always called into question, and you can trace this from the sort of background that they've had with respect to canceling conservative voices. The minute there's a conservative, a specialist or speaker being invited on the BBC, there's already hue and cry before the recording happens or before the recording is even aired online. But when it comes to narratives which is biased on the other side of the ideological spectrum, the documentary manages to get aired, and then when finally the viewers point out to the sort of hypocrisy, bias, and editorial, subversion and some sort of moral inversion, that's when they like to deny that they had any involvement whatsoever. There was one documentary which the BBC itself produced called Gaza Medics Under Fire. And this was something that they produced, which was on the other side of the ideological spectrum. And this wasn't even aired because there was so much protest and so many letters that landed up apparently at the BBC citing that it was somehow politically incorrect. So you can clearly see that this is a biased organization and it clearly knows what it's up to. So the fact that it's denying is nothing but furthering its criminal complicity and something that they're trying to wish-wash by trying to deny accountability. You're speaking to the son of a minister within the Hamas. Then the person who's contacted that person and recruited that person to be on the documentary definitely has connections with the organization. And to have connections on a ministerial level means that people within the organization definitely are on a conversation basis with a dangerous organization like the Hamas. So I think it's pretty clear from there because these documentaries, they're not, I've been part of different documentaries as well. They're not shot based on, okay, we're going to release a Google form and we're going to take responses and pick a candidate out of that. It happens through vetting and it happens through references and it happens through known associates. So definitely the Hamas has been a known associate for the BBC. And why has nobody been fired? I think why no one's been fired further goes on to confirm complicity. They are not firing anybody because definitely it was greenlit at the highest level. So if it was not greenlit, if this project was not greenlit and approved at the highest level, then perhaps somebody would be fired. But now, since the accountability chain is going all the way up to the top, everyone's trying to save their heads. And that's something which is apparent from the fact that nobody's been fired. I think we should, at this point, ask a question. What if a contrarian documentary was shot and in the place of a child, the son or daughter of a, IDF official or somebody from Netanyahu's party, one of the cabinet ministers, if one of their kids were featured? As a common, Israeli, you can imagine the kind of outrage. BBC would be forced to shut its editorial on the Middle East altogether if that were the case. And heads would be rolling by now. And fingers would be pointing. But the very fact that it's not shows that the entire organization is pretty much complicit. I'm not too sure that BBC is scared because there are prominent UK figures like Riz Ahmed, Ken Loach, who are actually defending, certain programs and who are defending a certain, a contrarian point. So there are very prominent figures in the UK, and there have been many concerts in the recent days as well, where chants such as "Death to the Israeli Army" have been chanted. So I think the BBC is riding on the sort of public sentiment which is prevalent in the UK right now, and it's doing what serves its organization the best. I think end of the day, every organization tries to save its own readership and popularity among its uh, base, its support base. It also goes on to show that it has cultivated a support base along its ideological leanings for a very long time. It's only today that we are questioning stuff like, is BBC ideologically partial? But I think the sort of unquestioning loyalty and the sort of patronage that they have um, enjoyed for the past couple of decades unquestioningly has allowed them to shape an entire readership base and an entire generation that supports them. So today they're just playing to the same crowd that they shaped all these decades.